All right, we'll call the August 27th council meeting to order. All right, Marshall Maples, would you give the invocation, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Heavenly Father, we gather here today grateful for the opportunity to come together as a community. We humbly ask for your guidance and wisdom as our elected officials work to address the needs of our city. We are especially thankful for an amazing Sudstock this year, which brought joy and lasting memories to our children. May your blessings continue to be upon them. May your spirit of unity fill this chamber, inspiring us to work together for the common good. Grant us the courage to seek solutions that benefit all of our citizens, regardless of their differences. Bless our city with peace, prosperity, and a harmonious future. May we always strive to uphold the principles of justice, equality, and compassion. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Chief Hawkins, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't see any.
Clerk will call the roll.
Taylor,
Present.
Peterson, Lees,
Present.
Heckmaster,
Present.
Edge,
Present.
Snow,
Here.
Barlow,
Here.
Cossey,
Here.
Schramm.
Present.
Move on to reading and consideration of minutes of the previous meeting.
Your Honor, I have a correction to the minutes of the previous meeting. In the fourth paragraph down, where it's addressing the changes to the minutes of the meeting before that, it's the second line from the bottom. It says, just wants to note that he didn't give it and she doesn't want it changed to Merchant of Hate. The person that identified himself as the Merchant of Hate, that should still remain on the minutes. It wouldn't be changed to Merchant of Hate because that's how he identified himself. So just to clarify, what I had asked for in that prior meeting is that we leave the title that speaker gave himself along with identifying his actual name and address if we have it.
All right. Any
Second.
further? Got a motion and a second to accept the minutes as amended. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. No presentations or proclamations. We'll move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your time to 5 minutes, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Regina Wells. I live at 2026 South Maple. And I'm here this evening not to complain about anything. I know it's hard to believe, but to thank council members for all their help and concern on some problems we've been having in the city. They are Tiffany Cossey, Chris Taylor, Janice Schramm, and Terry Heckmaster on guiding us to find ways on the speeding problems on our street. We had a great cooperation of Chief Hawkins. I feel we are close to a workable solution. With the storm siren problems, thank you, Chris Taylor, for working with the fire department on continuing correcting the problem. I also feel this will soon be solved. With the help of Chris Taylor and the safety committee, the dangerous tree on the corner of Maple and Fairview is now gone. And the visibility is very safe now. A special thanks to Zeb Carney and Wyatt Henninger for all their attention for talking to the owner about the tree. He was very cooperative and he even paid for the expense. No expense on the city. The Public Works and Street Department and the police who were involved in the whole process was so quickly done, cleaned up, and it was so amazing to see so many work together and work so hard. I believe it took 2.5 hours from start to finish. And you can't even tell there was a mess. It was great. Again, a big thank you to the council members, Police Chief Hawkins and his police department, the Carthage Fire Department, Zeb Carney and Wyatt Henniger, and the street department. Thank you again, Ronnie and Regina Wells, and the citizens of our neighborhood for showing your concerns and working with us together. I gave one of these to the department heads. I want other people to see that there are a lot of us out there that appreciate everything they do, whether we feel good or bad towards them. Their workers are excellent, and that usually goes to show excellent for department heads. I thank the safety committee for listening to everything. Chief Hawkins worked really hard with me one day on the phone, and we come up with some ideas, and I think they're working. And I've talked to Jana about it too. I've talked to Ms. Heckmaster about it, Mr. Taylor, and Ronnie and I feel very, very comfortable with everybody we talked to. Everybody was very nice. They listened, and they had questions, and we were able to answer, and vice versa. Again, a big, big thank you. And then I have two quick questions you probably can't answer now, but one of the questions is, I was reading in the Carthage Chronicle from August 21, and the trash rates. I'm confused on the rates. Senior persons is more expensive than a family. I'm on a very fixed income, and I'm very worried about where things are gonna go. Am I gonna be able to live in my home? So I'm watching every penny I can watch. And so if I can find where I can go and read on everything to see what the facts are, and then maybe we can work something out with the trash company, I don't know. So that's one question, and the other question was,
Regina, could I tell, that was transposed in the first reading. We had corrected in the meeting. It was the family rate was more than the senior rate.
oh, okay, okay.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I'm glad you did. And my second question is Carthage having property taxes top off right now for senior citizens? And if we have to do anything, fill out paperwork, go somewhere and do whatever we need to do, how's that work? Because ours aren't supposed to go up anymore, my understanding.
I can speak to that. There is not a top, but the property tax rates are not going up this year.
Okay, so we still have time to find out what senior citizens are able to do to keep them from ever going back up, correct? And if I know where I can research this, my time's almost
Call
up.
me tomorrow
Okay.
and we'll discuss it.
Thank you, Tracy.
Oh, and Regina, if I might, I believe that when that law passed, that was a state law, and it's a locality by locality decision. And so I think it may be actually a Jasper County decision, and Carthage is part of that. Does that sound right?
I have to.
Okay. Okay.
Again, thank you, everybody.
Hello, okay. Hello, my name is John Cooper. I live at 311 East Highland Avenue. I am a former employee of the city of Carthage. I was here 40 years, and I retired. I was with the fire department, so you can imagine what I want to talk about. I was in two other fire departments before I came here in 1970, and I was NCOIC of one of them, which was the same thing as a fire chief. So, and my education has been toward being a fireman. I've been a fireman basically since I was 5 years old. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. It's the only job I ever had. And I had a job once, I take that back, I had a job once for 3 months for Big Smith. I was a shipping clerk. I was a terrible shipping clerk. I wouldn't even, I noticed the place closed right after I left. So I don't think I had anything to do with it, but I may have, I don't know. Anyhow, but what I do know, I don't know how to hire any other employees or any other thing. I do know fire departments. I've been in them all my life. And I know what it takes to have a fire department. I know what it takes for a fireman to be a fireman. It takes trust. It takes trust from the top to the bottom. You have to be able to trust the man in front of you and the man behind you. That always works out that way. We try to send everybody in twos. Everybody has to trust the chief, and the chief has to trust them. And I've hired a lot of these guys. This guy sitting behind me, Mr. Martin, some of the others, I was there when they were hired. I interviewed most of them. And, you know, they make mistakes like I do, like you do, like everybody does. They regret them later, but it's too late. You can't take that back. Point in being is, don't ask me anything, but I do know that it takes a special man to be a fire chief. You have to be able to say no. You have to be able to say yes. My favorite saying, I had sayings all plastered all over my desk when I worked there. So one of my favorites was, a clean fire truck is a happy fire truck. They'll all tell you. And the thing is, you can tell the discipline of a fire department by the cleanliness of equipment and station. You need a man that'll do that. That man over there will do that. Also, another favorite saying of mine was, those that don't remember the past are doomed to repeat it. I think that right now, the way I see it, I've watched all the council meetings, some of your council stuff, you've done what you accused the council before you of doing. You're going back over. You're not following the ordinances. I was here when they wrote the charter. I remember how proud the people were to not be a third-class city anymore. I remember how, when they finished the charter and the ordinances go with it, they were really proud. Bill Carter. Yeah, and I remember the struggle it was. I remember that they made sure that the city administrator was just that, the mayor's assistant. He was nobody's boss. He only had the power the mayor gave him. Now, I see we don't have one of those yet. So the thing is, I do know what it takes, the attributes it takes to be a fire chief. Jason Martin does have those attributes. I wrote him a letter. If I didn't think he could do the job, I wouldn't have wrote the letter. And they all know that. And I think they trusted me. They respected me. We were good friends, all of them. I know most of you. This little girl I knew when she was young. I've known you a long time. I've known Mr. Snow and Mr. Barlow. I just really got to know him today. I talked to him on the phone, so we covered a little ground. Mr. Taylor, I haven't met you yet, but I'm looking forward to meeting you and talking to you.
Anytime.
Bill, I've known 100 years, and just about everybody else in here. But I'm trying to keep this as short as I can, so I'm going to jump to the bottom of what I've got to say. You know, when I became a fireman and a fire chief, an assistant chief, the old chief told me once before, I used to get excited. I'd jump up and start getting mad. And he patted me on the leg and said, "You need to calm down." He said, "Don't get mad and don't yell." And I looked that up, and one of my last favorite saying, I think you all take into consideration, in the book of James in the Bible, James 1:18-21 says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slower to anger." And the next verse down says, "Because that does not speak well of God." And I think that if you would take that into consideration and do it before you make a decision, I think that you'll see that there's real wisdom in it. So I'm going to sit down and shut up. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, John.
My name is Misty White, and I live at 1647 South Garrison. I am Ward 5, and I just came up here to say and address the letter that was written by Mark Peterson. And just a couple of those things. I really can't speak to all of it because I don't know about all of it, but what I can say is that I don't think that it's right for us to discriminate against anyone based on their political beliefs. I know we wouldn't want them to discriminate against us in getting hired for a job for that, no matter who you're for, Republican or Democrat, whatever side of the fence you sit on. I think what matters is your ability to do the job. And I think that the support of the fire station for Jason Martin proves, and plus the fact that he is the interim fire chief, kind of proves that his ability to do the job. Please keep that in consideration. Thank you.
Evening, Mr. Mayor. I'm Pat Goff, 1163 Grand Avenue here in Carthage. I'm here this evening to encourage an open discussion of Council Bill 2446, which is on your agenda. I attempted to make my comments available to the council. I apologize. I'm sorry I didn't get to everybody. I got several messages back saying it didn't go through, so I knew that I didn't do it. I have a few threshold questions to be considered before acting on this proposal. One is why? Why is another audit necessary? Is there a specific problem or issue that's been identified, been presented to the Water and Electric Board and management, but unable to be resolved with the existing structure we have in place? I've heard of none. It bothers me that we might be headed back down the road we began in the spring of '23. Another effort to discredit Carthage Water and Electric. Efforts to impugn the board, the management, and employees of Water and Electric that began several months ago were unsupported by fact and were roundly rejected by the citizens of Carthage. Let's not repeat that mistake that contributed to the chasm that we find ourselves in today. Two, is it a priority for use of city funds for this audit? Some have been concerned over the mounting cost of legal fees that are necessary to get us through some of these problems. Would this not just initiate another funding problem? Third, using city funds for an additional audit of Water and Electric, duplicating work by the existing CPA, a firm of professionals, is problematic. I had the pleasure to serve on the Water and Electric Board for several years. During that time with 5 other professionals, we routinely reviewed a comprehensive medical or monthly financial statement that included a detail of every expenditure, every check written. In addition to this comprehensive board oversight, an independent audit firm is engaged to perform an annual audit of financial statements. Every year for more than 10 years, Water and Electric has received a clean, unqualified opinion. They are meeting the industry standards. Incidentally, that same CPA firm audits the city's books. This gives the auditors an independent look at both sides of many of the transactions that take place by Water and Electric. And this year's independent audit is already underway. So we're a little behind. To summarize, please pause and think. What's the problem? Has one been identified? Second, is there a priority? Is this a priority of scarce city resources? Then can we not rely on the independent CPA oversight of the work being done now? But maybe most importantly, would this action help heal the city or just drive the wedge deeper? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Bill Lashley. I have an office 1 block off the square, and I'm not here to talk about anything political or anything that even remotely ought to be political. I want to talk about a bread and butter issue, and that is the enforcement of the 2-hour parking zone on and around the square. We haven't done that for at least a couple of years. It is hurting the merchants and the business people around the square. We work one block west of the square, and we have a yellow zone and even a fire plug in front of our place. That doesn't seem to make any difference. People park there all day long. We have called the police department, which, by the way, is about a block and a half from our office, at least a dozen times, and nothing ever happens. We don't get any ticketing, and many times these people are directly in front of the fire plug, which I know you firemen will worry about as a fire prevention measure. And in desperation one time, we called the fire department thinking they might put some pressure on. That didn't work so far, but that was on one occasion. This hurts business on the square. I don't know who's parking there all day long, and I'm not going to accuse anybody, but the merchants and the other people who have offices there need help, and I would appreciate the city looking at that issue and enforcing the 2-hour parking ordinance. Thank you.
Bill? All right, we will move on to report of standing committees. Budget, Ways and Means, Chairman Snow.
Budget Ways and Means Committee is currently between meetings. Our next meeting will be September 9th at 5:30 here in council chambers. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Committee on Insurance Audit and Claims, Chairperson Kasi.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So the Committee on Insurance Audit and Claims met this evening at 5:30 here in council chambers. We approved claims in the total amount of $846,270.48. We also looked at 2 ordinances that are under new business tonight. Council Bills 2447 and 2448. We voted to approve those and move those to committee. And actually, we had originally, when we spoke with the attorney, had asked that we asked that they be put on as emergency ordinances. We've been trying to get these on the slate for quite some time, and we did not get cooperation from other powers that be previously. They did forward it to the city as an emergency ordinance, but it's my understanding that you, Mayor, removed the emergency tag. And so at this time, I would like to move that we suspend the rules and we move this to second reading tonight when it comes up.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules on Council's Bills 2447, 2448. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Who's the no?
We need, let's
Raise
raise
your
hands
for the no.
so we can get.
Oh, wait, no's or yes? I'm sorry.
No.
Let's do the ayes first.
The yays.
It has to be 2/3. Does it have to be 2/3 to suspend the rules?
I have the ordinance, Tracy.
She found it.
So it has to be 2/3 of the council members, so not members voted to council seats, but of members of the council. So it's charter section 3.9 subsection E. And so basically the language says, and receives vote of 2/3 of the members of the council. So there are 9 members of the council. As long as we have 6 votes, that's 2/3.
62. So that passes.
Anything further in your report?
Our next meeting will be, I wrote that down. I want to say,
17th. No, no.
I think it's the
10th,
10th, yeah. Our next meeting will be here in council chambers on September 10th at 5:30.
All right. Public Services Committee, Chairman Edge.
The Public Services met on,
I'm
was gonna
sorry.
say, I think
I'm
it's
sorry, I
six.
missed Public Safety. Sorry about that. Chairperson Heckmaster.
The Public Safety Committee met in City Hall Council Chambers at 5:30 PM, August 19th. Citizen Jeanette Nye was present to request road closures and barricades for the Maple Leaf 5K race on October 18th. The race begins at 6 PM. Requests include a CPT barricade and soft street closure from George E. Phelps at South Grand Avenue to South Fulton Street. Officers present at race crossings on the west side and south side of the Fairview Christian Church, with limited access from Airport Drive to Clinton Street and Grand to Fairview. To accommodate the Maple Leaf 5K race, I move on October 18th from 5:30 to 7:30 PM a Carthage Police Department barricade and a soft street closure from George E. Phelps at South Grand Avenue to South Fulton Street. Officers present at race crossings on the west side and south side of the Fairview Christian Church, limiting access from Airport Drive to Clinton Street and Grand to Fairview.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the Maple Leaf 5K on October the 18th, beginning at 5:30 PM. Is that correct? With police department support and closures as discussed. Any discussion?
Excuse me, Mayor, the actual event starts at 6, but they've requested it at 5:30.
Right. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
You bet.
And we had looked into, there's no football game in town that night. It's away during Maple Leaf. So.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Jude Champagne was present to address closures for the Rally in the Park event on September 15th. This is the Bridge's 20th annual Rally in the Park. The September 15th event offers a benefit run, church service, car show, free lunch, and inflatables. Included in the request are road closures that will occur if it rains and permission to back cars in the closed areas only on Chestnut Avenue. I move that on September 18th, roads around and connected to the 800 block of South Main Street be closed between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m., including South Main Street between Chestnut Avenue and 9th Street and between Main and Lion Street. Also, in the event of rain, to close Chestnut between Main Street and Lion between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Permission to back vehicles into parking spaces on Chestnut Avenue in the closed areas only.
Second.
All right. Got a motion and a second for September the 18th, beginning at 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. On the streets outlined, and permission for closures and permission to back into parking spots on Chestnut. Any discussion?
Correction, Your Honor, that's September 15th, not the 18th.
15th?
Yes.
All right, apologize. September 15th. All right. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Regina Wells discussed the traffic speed on the block of 2000 South Maple. Mrs. Wells had spoken to Chief Hawkins, and there's been extra patrol monitoring the area, and she'd like to see a four-way stop sign put at Elk and Maple. Chief Hawkins suggested using a traffic counter for a traffic study on Maple. Councilperson Schramm suggested a traffic study on Main Street as well. Chief Hawkins will monitor the traffic on Maple Street, and if there's not sufficient traffic, the equipment will be moved to Main Street. A report will be given at next month's public safety meeting. We also heard from Julie Reams regarding the Maple Leaf Festival. The street closures are the same as in past years, with the addition of the northwest corner of the square closed longer. Closure and vacating of the square on Monday, October 14th from 5 to 8 p.m. for the Touch a Truck event, the corner of 3rd and Main from Friday at 8 a.m. until police for the stage setup and takedown, and the usual closures for parade lineup and route. I move for closure and vacating of the square on Monday, October 14th, from 5 to 8 p.m. for the Touch a Truck event, the corner of 3rd and Main from Friday at 8 a.m. until 10 a.m. for the stage setup and takedown, and the usual closures for the parade lineup and route.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for street closures and vacations, and that was for the 18th?
Yes, the closure and vacating of the square on Monday, October 14th.
14th. 14th. We're gonna keep it here in 18th. All right, October 14th. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Also, Ms. Reams requested security from the police department on the following events that will have a beer garden. On October 12th, Oktoberfest event on the square, and October 18th through 19th, Friday and Saturday night concerts on the square. I move that the Carthage Police Department provide security on October 12th and for the Oktoberfest event on the square, and October 18th through 19th, Friday and Saturday night concerts on the square.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for the police department to provide security on October 12th for Oktoberfest and October 18th and 19th for concerts on the square. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Ms. Reams' last request of us that evening was for the vendors to be allowed to sell under the Chambers City business license and to place signage on the public right-of-ways, poles, and signs that are owned by the city. I move that Maple Leaf vendors be allowed to sell under the Chambers City business license and to place signage on the public right-of-ways, poles, and signs that are owned by the city.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to allow vendors for Maple Leaf to use the chambers, operate under the chambers business license, and also to be allowed to post signage on city property. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
We also looked at bids pertaining to the cleaning of the police department. Chief Hawkins proposed moving forward with the lowest bid received, which was from Michelle Nakins at $1,600 per month. I move we accept Michelle Nakins' bid of $1,600 per month for the cleaning of the Carthage Police Department.
Second.
You're so good. I have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Michelle Nathan in the amount Nakin in the amount of $1,600 per month for cleaning of the police department. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Chief Hawkins mentioned that he's received a resignation. The officer is moving back to where his family lives. Chris Taylor thanked the fire department and the EMS and all involved with Food Truck Friday incident where a woman had an incident. My remembrance, Chris, was that you said it was almost instantaneous.
It was. She had a seizure.
Yes. Thank you. The next meeting of the Public Safety Department is scheduled for 5:30 p.m. Monday, September 16th, here in Council Chambers.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move on to public services. Jared Edge.
Public services met here in council chambers on the 20th at 5:30 p.m. First, we heard from John Skinner from the Department of Conservation around a plan for an upcoming grant concerning the ash trees within the city parks. More to come on this in the near future. Second, we also heard from Julie Reams from the chamber for the upcoming Maple Leaf Festival. There are no changes in the request for the Public Services Committee on this this year. So at this point, I would like to make a motion to approve the request as outlined in the packet.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the request for Maple Leaf as outlined in the packet. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, we heard from Bob Herbst from the Community Foundation of the Ozarks around the Joplin Trails Coalition. Bob had actually applied for a grant for improvements to the trail parking lot near the golf course for the Ruby Jack Trail. And Abby, I may need you to keep me honest, but they had applied for the grant and it was granted, but that's actually city property. So we need to approve that they are able to move forward with that grant with minimal assistance from the city. I believe it was utilizing a dump truck to move gravel, correct? Is that accurate?
Well, really, it's the contract that the gentleman is going to be, there's two separate situations where we're just doing some maintenance work to improve
Okay.
the parking lot, but then the contractor is gonna do some other stuff, so that's why we need to approve that portion.
Okay. So I would like to make a motion to approve participation in the grant as outlined in the packet.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the grant for, is that Ruby Jack for the trail?
Yes, it's for the Community Foundation of the Ozarks.
Foundation of, all right. As outlined in the packet. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, we discussed the bids for repairing the park building, and the committee approved the bid from Midland Enterprises. This will be Council Bill 2445 on tonight's agenda. Then we discussed moving forward with a liquor license for the golf course to provide beer and seltzers at select events. That was approved by the committee. Then we discussed an agreement with Contractors Portable for porta potties on an as-needed basis. This will be Council Bill 2444 on tonight's agenda. Then finally, we discussed a budget adjustment for the golf course to overseed with bluegrass this fall, and more to come on that. I believe that goes to budget, correct?
It does.
So that will be a budget meeting agenda item for our next meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is September 17th here in council chambers at 5:30 p.m.
All right, thank you.
Actually, the next meeting will not be on September 17th. We have not decided an alternate date yet, but we won't have a quorum for that.
All righty. We move on to Public Works Committee, Chairman Taylor.
We are between meetings right now, and our next scheduled meeting is going to be the first Tuesday of the month.
All right. Move on to report of special committees and board liaisons. Ms. Heckmaster.
The Planning, Zoning, and Historic Preservation Commission met here in council chambers at 5:30 p.m. August 1st, 2024. Julie Tilley reported on contracts she's made with the owner and contractor of 420 South Main concerning the requirements of repairing the fascia of their historic building. Although the discussion was not a public hearing, Jeff Neal, the contractor, was present and requested to speak. Mr. Neal shared some of the difficulties he's facing with the project. After some discussion, Ms. Tilley advised him of a letter she had previously prepared for the owners, which had not been picked up by the owners. Commission members voted unanimously to provide Mr. Neal with a copy of the letter. Discussion occurred regarding the zoning of townhouses. Some general information gathered by members of the commission was distributed. The commission decided to table until further research was conducted. The next meeting of the Planning, Zoning, and Historic Commission is scheduled for Thursday, September 5th at 5:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Edge.
Vision Carthage met on the 21st of this month in the Carthage Water and Electric Community Room. They've got a few exciting things in the works. First is Restoration Carthage is scheduled for September 28th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And at this point, they are still looking for volunteers and sponsors for that event. Next item is the monthly clean team is scheduled for the 29th, so this Thursday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and still looking for volunteers for that event. And then finally, they are starting to work on Treats on the Square, which is scheduled for Halloween from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And they are organizing volunteers for the event.
All right, thank you. Mr. Snow.
Yeah, Your Honor, I would like to ask if you have a schedule for our city administrator hiring committee. we met well over a month ago, and the job descriptions for the city administrator, assistant city administrator have both been updated now, and we're just, was wondering if you had a schedule for when that committee would post the opening and when we would get back together to work on that.
We will get a timeline for that figured out this week, and I will let you know.
Thank you.
Any other?
Your Honor.
Oh,
Carthage Water and Electric Board met on August 15th at 3 p.m. and Mr. Barlow was kind enough to fill in for me because I was at work, could not leave that day. They did approve their disbursements for July in the amount of $4,899,513.72. Their June financial statements, which included the full fiscal year, were presented to the board. And they, combined with the change in net position for the company, exceeded the budget by nearly $1.9 million. And in the minutes it says, although much of this was attributed to the cost of purchase power coming in less than budgeted and investment income exceeding budget. All 4 departments exceeded budgeted change in the net positions for the year. Operating revenue for the year came in slightly higher for the year by $84,000. And the main thing, I also wanted to update their KPM is going to begin, or has begun, working on the annual audit that's conducted. She noted the audit looks at a variety of things, including, and you'll see all that in your notes too, but not limited to accounts receivable, payroll, everything that's on there. And I know we all are tired and want to keep going tonight. And then they'll express their opinion on CWEP's financial statements. She noted the audit process has already started and KPM will be visiting CWEP in September. And they will finalize the information that they need, and then it's typically released in October. And then they had consideration, and they are purchasing a couple, or they took a couple bids, purchased 2 trucks for less than what they had budgeted for. And then they unanimously adopted the locked-in, where they did, and we've talked about this before, where they put all their jobs in actual categories and organized it in a way that it allows for everyone to be promoted and things in a more uniform way. They did adopt that, and they will be going forward with locked-in handling that for them. And I think I got the highlights. It was nice. It is nice because in every meeting that I've so far, the last one I went to, and then this one, it looks like they brought in some of they're bringing in the employees to actually meet the board and to meet the people that are in the room. And that's very nice. It's nice to see the faces of the people doing the work. So that's always appreciated. I hate that I wasn't there for this one. And thank you, Mr. Barlow. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, move on. Mayor's report, not a lot to report. Did attend the CEDC meeting last week. We'll move on to report of council members. Mr. Taylor, anything?
I have nothing to report tonight, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Lees, anything?
I know a lot of people went to the SUDS Fund and Sudstock, and I know a lot of people that really enjoyed themselves. I was under the weather that day. I wasn't feeling well, but thank you all for putting that on, everybody that had a part in that. And then I also want to throw out a kudos to the street department, and she mentioned Josiah Bayless, and I apologize, but I lost my note on the other name she mentioned, and she was out of town, so I could not get that. And also to the CWEP department for responding to a need that one of our citizens had, and they're going to take care of things for her. And they did it very timely, so I appreciate that.
All right, thank you. Ms. Heckmaster.
I also, am very pleased with Sudstock. What a tongue twister. I want to remind everyone that this August 30th, the Cruisin' Carthage Square event will be held. That's not a city event, but we're grateful that they're going to do that. It's from 6 to 9 p.m. And I also saw today, I don't know if anyone else saw, that there are power outages in Missouri. And I just want to thank CWNEP for having the foresight to make sure that we have cool air conditioning and that we are not impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Edge?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Snow?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to address Council Bill 2446, the council bill that to hire an auditor to audit Carthage Water and Electric. Over a year ago, Mr. Mayor, this started a divide in our city that has continued to this day. I guess I don't know of any specific issues that there are, but I just wanted to ask, how many times have you been to the Water and Electric Board meeting in your 6 years as mayor?
Just a few.
Want to ask how many times you've actually gone to Water and Electric if you do have concerns over something, and asked to see proof of what's been asked for or what you have concerns about. Over the last year, you've replaced 3 of the board members that you said that you needed new blood on the board. I believe that this audit casts doubt on the financials of Water and Electric and the operation of Water and Electric. At this time, I'd like for you to ask you, because this council bill did not go before any committees, I would like to ask you to rescind Council Bill 2446. And I believe that you have a personal vendetta against Carthage Water and Electric that is driving this, and I would like to ask for your resignation.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Anything, Mr. Barlow?
No, sir.
Ms. Cossey?
Well, I didn't, but I would like to second Councilman Snow's comments, all of them. But I do understand that we'll be discussing Council Bill 2446 later on, and I will have some questions at that time.
All right, thank you. Ms. Schramm?
Nothing, Mayor.
All right. We'll move on to administrative reports. Chief Hawkins.
Just a couple things, Your Honor. As Ms. Heckmaster pointed out, the traffic study on South Maple and potentially at some point South Main is already underway. Things are going nicely there. We should have some good data to report back at some point in time in the near future. And the other thing that I would like to address is Mr. Lashley's comment about parking. I know that parking enforcement has changed over the last several years, but to say that nothing ever happens is not true. I know that for a fact because I have dealt with several parking issues personally myself at the very intersection that he's talking about. Now, am I there 24 hours a day? Absolutely not. If Mr. Lashley or anyone else has specific complaints that they see, rather than waiting 2 weeks to come to a council meeting, just call me. If you have a specific incident where you called the police department and a response was not given or an officer was not sent out for a call for service, please call me. I can deal with it immediately rather than wait 2 weeks. And then I have to go back and search for what went wrong. Did someone not get the message? I don't know. Just call me, Bill. I mean, my God, you've known me forever.
Chief, you'll be getting a call tomorrow morning.
Thank you. That's all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Deputy Chief Martin.
I wanted to point out this weekend is Labor Day weekend. We do our boot block every year at Walmart. I appreciate any support we get from the community for that. Last year, I think, was one of our biggest years ever. We raised around $4,300 to turn into muscular dystrophy. They have streamlined their operation. They don't have local chapters anymore, so they don't have all the salaries, and according to their financials, 70% now goes to the the work instead of 70% going to the payrolls. So it's a much better organization now, and we're happy to support it. We'll be out there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I also would like to address Mr. Lasley's concern. If he has called the fire department, I'm unaware of it, and had someone called and said they were in front of a fire hydrant, I would have parked there with my lights on until police arrived. But going forward, if that's the case, that's what will happen. I also want to thank the PD, the Alliance of Southwest Missouri, my guys, Carthage Water and Electric, and Fastenal for, I'm sure I'm missing a few organizations that helped with the Sudstock. It was another big success this year, and the Parks Department gives us the ground to do it on, and it's a great event for the kids. Also want to thank the Public Works mechanics. They saved us probably $3,000 or $4,000 by replacing the seal packs in our ladder truck outriggers. It ended up costing us $300 in parts, and they did all the work for us. So kudos to them. It's very much appreciated. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Almendinger.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to mention that Greg's Playground is underway. You should see quite a bit of activity over there, so we're very excited to be having that in the works, and hopefully, well, I'm not going to give a time frame because I've tried to do that and push it out as far as I could possibly imagine, and yet still it's not quite complete. And then the dog park is also nearing completion, so we'll be having a grand opening for that here shortly as well. Thank you.
All righty, Ms. Cox.
Thank you, Your Honor. I've been working with the insurance company to settle the first severe weather claim that we had. We have not got everything yet on the second severe storm event, so we'll settle that later on, but we are working on the first one. I have sent the information into Victoria McGrath for the salary study, but we will have a meeting soon to decide how to move forward on that. The county had their annual tax sale in council chambers yesterday. They had to move the sale to City Hall because the elevators do not work currently over at the courthouse. And Steve McIntosh said that everything went well, and we are thankful that we were able to work with them and to find a location for them that worked well. Also, I'd like to thank all of our staff. As Ms. Wells stated earlier, you know, our department heads went out of their way to make sure that they looked into the claims, you know, that they had made, and there was some confusion at first on which tree it was, and that's why there was a little bit of a delay. But once Zeb Carney went out and looked and talked to Mr. Wells, they got it all straightened out, and the response was very quick on that. And also, you know, the police department is working on the speed issue as well. And thanks again to our staff that had a hand in the Sudstock. Very appreciative to them. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Gold.
I have nothing to report, Your Honor.
All right. We'll move on to report claims against the city.
The Committee on Claims filed a report in the amount of $846,270.48.
I'd like to move that we approve the claims as presented.
A second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the report and allow the claims. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to public hearings.
The City of Carthage will hold a public hearing at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, August 27th, 2024, in the City Hall Council Chambers at 326 Grant Street in Carthage, Missouri, at which time citizens may be heard on the property tax rates proposed to be set by the City of Carthage.
Again, I'd just like to state that there is no increase in the property tax rates this year.
We'll move on to old business.
The second reading of Council Bill 2442, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the City of Carthage and Allied Services LLC, DBA Republic Services of Galena, of 1715 East Front Street, Galena, Kansas, 66739, for collection, removal, and disposal of residential and commercial solid waste commencing October 1st, 2024, and terminating September 30th, 2029.
Any discussion? Cast your votes. Council bill passes.
The second reading of Council Bill 2443, an ordinance levying general taxes upon real property located within the City of Carthage, Jasper County, Missouri, for the year 2024 for general revenue purposes and other purposes, and fixing the rates thereof.
Any discussion? Cast your vote. Council bill passes. Move on to new business.
The first reading of Council Bill 2444, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a partnership agreement with Contractors Portables to supply portable restrooms and hand washing units for various park locations and special events in the City of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? Okay.
The first reading of Council Bill 2445, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Midland Enterprises for repairs to the Parks and Recreation Building in Municipal Park in the amount of $56,779 in the City of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion? Okay.
The first reading of Council Bill 2446, an ordinance authorizing the identification and hiring of a certified accounting firm to conduct a comprehensive audit of the finances of Carthage Water and Electric Plant.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Snow?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, I would like to ask you to rescind this council bill. I don't believe that there are any issues that I'm aware of that would require a comprehensive audit unless you're aware of some. And if you're aware of them, I think if you made them known to management, we could work them out without having to do an audit. Again, I say this really casts a shadow of doubt or mistrust in the employees of Carthage Water and Electric. And over a year ago, when all of these things started, it drove a division in our city that continues to today. And I believe this will continue to drive that wedge even deeper. So I again ask you, please rescind this Council Bill 2446.
All right, I will tell you that this council bill was recommended by the Attorney General when they were looking into the complaint filed against myself and the administration earlier this year. The previous council did not have they'd just been through the difficulties that we've been talking about, we've been discussing, and we're not gonna approve that. The difficulty, and it's well documented, we've been through it all. Started with the budget process. However, when the Attorney General was looking at the things, they noted some red flags. I don't know what those red flags are. They didn't discuss the red flags. I feel like it's our responsibility as a council to take a look and see if there are, what there are and what they are. You know, CWDP is highly successful and respected public utility with assets over 100 million. The annual operating budget's over 25 million per year. They have a dedicated staff that provides some of the most reliable services anywhere in the industry. The city council has the obligation to ensure that all municipal funds are used and managed according to law. This whole thing began as an effort to make sure we were doing things by the book and covering our bases. We wanted to make sure all things were being approved in the proper method. That's all. Now, you fast forward a little bit, and we had a political action committee combined with those that were already angry about the water and electric disagreement from last year, as well as the Precious Moments property, and they came after the ones who started asking questions. So to make sure things are done right, I feel like that an audit is in order. I don't know what the red flags were. The recommendation was made.
Well, Your Honor, over a year ago, you formed a committee of council members, water and electric board members, to look at some ordinances that had been identified that needed to be corrected, needed to be updated to more closely align with what the daily activities of water and electric are. You told that committee that they no longer needed to meet. You've replaced 3 of the board members now. They've done a salary study. The salary study is completed and they're in the process of implementing the salary study. I don't understand the reason for this audit.
Your Honor,
Because it was requested by the Attorney General. Yes,
if I may, could you just explain to me, I'm unsure of what the difference in this audit is from the yearly audit.
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. That's why I suggest that we get Ms. Cox.
The annual audit, what that does is looks at the financial reporting. The audit that he is talking about goes in and looks at basically every transaction, all sunshine requirements and that. So an annual audit doesn't, they do a spot test, you know, if they don't look at absolutely everything, where the other does.
So the Attorney General is the one that requested this?
Right.
So, Mr. Mayor, so can you tell me when this recommendation was made by the Attorney General, was it written? Was it a written recommendation?
No, it was by phone.
And to whom was the Attorney General's office speaking?
Pardon?
To whom was the Attorney General's office speaking?
The former city attorney.
So what you're saying is Mr. Dally has reported to you that this but there was no letter of recommendation that this be conducted, and so we're taking Mr. Dally's word that this was requested. Have you looked into, Mr. Mayor, how much this audit like this will cost the city? You're looking at, if I recall correctly, 4 years of what seems to be a forensic audit. Do you know how much this will cost?
I'm sure going to be expensive, but you know, if they're suggesting it and they're saying that there's sufficient cause, then
what was their sufficient cause cited, or do we just have the word that they said that they recommended this?
Yeah, they
but you
recommended
don't
it.
have details as to what those red flags were?
No, I don't.
Ms. Cox, do you recall off the top of your head how much the last forensic audit we did cost us?
I think it started out at 40-some thousand, but I think we had to amend it to pay more.
Okay, so we're looking, and that wasn't even covering, that was covering a period of approximately.
Very small.
a very small audit. And so we're looking at a comprehensive audit for 4 years. So if we're ballparking this, we're thinking somewhere around $160,000 for a recommendation that was made by phone to our former city administrator. We don't know what those red
to our
flags
former city
were,
attorney.
right? I don't know if it's appropriate, but at this time, I'd like to move that we strike this bill and not reconsider it.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to strike the bill. Any discussion?
I just think that we need, I wanted to hear everything about it. Like, I understand the money, which we're spending money on a lot of things. But I am concerned, would it be possible just to table this tonight and get with the attorney's office? Dally was respected. He was the attorney here for years. And then find out if they still have red flags or concerns that we should go ahead and do this.
Well, Ms. Lisa, I would suggest that we go ahead and vote on the motion as is. We can still reach out to the Attorney General's office, and if they document something that they see as red flags, the appropriate procedure would be for this to go to the committee that just met earlier tonight. It's called the Insurance Audit and Claims Committee. It would be more appropriate for it to go through there than to be put on the agenda. I actually second Mr. Snow's sentiments that this was most likely put on the agenda purely to cast some kind of a shadow of doubt on CWEP. I'm not seeing anything, certainly nothing concrete. But if they are willing to put something in writing that indicates their red flags, I think at that time it would be appropriate for that committee to consider it. And if they see something, then to forward it on to the council. But I don't think the appropriate procedure has been followed. I don't believe the appropriate spirit is there. I believe it's a vindictive thing that's going on here, just to cast doubt on a respected public entity that we have. And so I would not vote to table it. I would like to see it removed.
And just speaking of, I was actually thinking I wanted to be slow to speak. I don't want to be fast to anger. And thank you, Mr. Cooper, for that, because that made me think things through. But I have tried to always speak and do what I think is right at the time. And I don't know the right thing at this time for that, but I do know that we need to consider everything and look at it that way. So.
And I appreciate that, and like I said, I believe that we could consider it if we have something concrete, but I am not at all interested in pursuing spending $160,000 plus of the city's money on hypotheticals.
All right, so I've got a motion and a second to strike. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstain. Abstain.
All right, motion carried. Move on to the next one.
The first reading of Council Bill 2447, an ordinance to amend Section 2-121 of Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2 of the Code of the City of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion?
And Your Honor, I believe that we voted to bring this to second reading, so at this time, I would like to move that we have the second reading of that bill.
All right.
Second.
I think we had a motion and a second earlier in the meeting, so I think we're good.
The second reading of Council Bill 2447, an ordinance to amend Section 2-121 of Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2 of the Code of the City of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Ms. Lee?
Go ahead, Dustin. All right, thank you. I had just a few concerns, and I did talk to Mr. Gold a little bit before too of some of my concerns. One of which was the word willful was taken out, any violation of an ordinance or charter provision, and it was taken out, willful violation. Willful was taken out, and I think that's important because we all are humans, and I think that if there wasn't a willful act of a crime or a willful act of violation, then willful needs to be in that. Also, I'm in agreement with, things being reported by whomever and brought for charges or so on. But I'm not in favor of the council being the judge and the jury in any of this, which I talked to Mr. Gold, and he explained to me that that would be a committee that would do that. Also, it said that it would be, the one thing that was taken out too is if there's a judgment, that may be in the second one. Okay, it is, it's in the next one. But that's the main things I had on that one. I do think that removing the word willful is important.
Mr. Edge.
And I'd just like to ask Kelsey, I know in the Insurance on Unclaimed Committee, you explained the differences. I thought this might be an opportunity to do that again, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. So in this one, the major differences, and so you're right, I do think we removed the word willful, and I wouldn't be opposed to putting that back in. I think the main reason that I had suggested that that be removed is because then you have a higher standard of proof and somebody says, oh, it wasn't willful, and then you have to jump through a lot more hurdles. But I don't have a big objection to the word willful being left in. The majority of the changes, the major change was in subsection A. Currently, the mayor has the ability to unilaterally suspend any officer of the city. We are proposing to change that language to now make it the mayor with the approval of a majority of all the council members elected to the city council may do that. So it's no longer a unilateral action. It requires more than one person, because that's a pretty serious act to suspend an officer. That includes city council members who were elected by their constituents, and you've got one person who potentially could remove them. And the other two major changes were to both paragraphs A and B. One of the violations that could also trigger this would be the violation of state or federal law, which was not in there before.
Thank you. May I? I understand that, and I do think, having council be able to look at all that, but would you explain to people in the audience and to everyone, because some people don't understand what it means as a city officer and who city officers are, that this would involve?
And actually, in committee, Miranda had a really good handle on that one. I can't remember which, did you cite to the charter or to the code?
It's in the code in chapter 2. It lists everything out. Officers, departments. I don't remember what the articles are.
So I think in general that an officer of the city includes city council persons, the mayor themselves, department heads, our city administrator, assistant city administrator. I believe our city clerk is also an officer. Our city attorney. Am I missing anyone that you can think of?
The water and electric board officers of the city as well.
And the water and electric board. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Did you want to make that motion then to put willful back in there?
I would like to make the motion to add the word willful violation back into.
I second that.
Okay. Have a motion and a second to add willful back into the,
and
help me on which paragraph it is on that.
It's in A and B of
A and B.
2-12.
All right, any discussion?
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, and in on that, you were saying you have to jump through more hoops. I think lots of hoops are needed before we just eliminate someone's job and livelihood. I think that's why I want those hoops to be jumped through. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion carries. Now, any further discussion on the bill itself?
That was just to add the word willful in, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, are we?
I sent the vote for the subject reading.
Right.
So do we need I motion that we approve the ordinance as amended.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the 2447 as amended. And then any further discussion on 20, yep.
I don't believe, since it's on the agenda as a council bill, it needs a motion for approval of the as amended. I believe it's already up for approval without a motion to approve.
Well, there was an amendment made.
Yes, and the amended.
But after it was second read, so we probably needed to have that motion to amend prior to the vote.
I'm not sure what Mr. Jones' question is.
Well, we don't make motions to approve council bills after second reading. The second reading is the motion to approve. So there's no need for a motion to approve as amended or a second.
She usually reads it by title and says as amended.
Right, so she,
but it was already read the second time, so.
Because it was amended, we usually read it by title and say as amended, the name would need
So, I get, read the.
Read it through time, okay.
Yeah.
Council Bill 2447 as amended, an ordinance to amend section 2-121 of chapter 2, article 3, division 2 of the code of the city of Carthage, Missouri. As amended. I said as amended. As
Any
amended
further
a second
discussion?
time.
All right, cast your vote.
Randy, you gonna give us a vote?
I did. Hold on, I'll do it again.
Mayor, may I ask one more question? Is it too late?
Yeah,
We haven't voted
we
yet.
voted.
Hang on.
No, it's not working.
Popped up and then it went away.
Let's refresh.
My screen's all dark.
Your screen.
Yeah.
It popped up and then went away and now the screen is dark.
Okay, good. Not just.
Oh, there.
Okay.
Yes, no. Did yours pop up? Lauren?
It's popped up, I just
Oh,
decided.
okay.
Okay, council bill passes. I'm sorry, Ms. Lees, we had already.
That's okay, I
called for
understand.
the vote, so. Wasn't trying to cut you off there.
That's okay, just pause longer for me. I have to read all my notes.
The first reading of Council Bill 2448, an ordinance to amend section 2-122 of chapter 2, article 3, division 2 of the code of the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion?
And since we've already approved this to go to second reading, do we need to make the motion that we do second reading now?
I think we've already got it, yep.
So the second reading of Council Bill 2448, an ordinance to amend section 2-122 of chapter 2, article 3, division 2 of the code of the city of Carthage, Missouri.
Any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Lees?
And I apologize for being so nervous, and it takes me a minute sometimes to get, but I wrote some notes here. And I haven't seen, aren't we supposed to provide the redacted, and when we add and redact from these, and that's what I was getting ready to say on the other one. I wanted to see, I think everyone needs to be able to see what was added and what was redacted. Because there's several more changes in this one than the other one, but I do believe that it should have been provided what was added and what was redacted.
So if we need to pause, Tracy was able to provide one for me for this bill that we're voting on. I suppose if we paused, we could maybe make copies in the office if you wanted to see it before we voted.
It's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement. Okay, that was my question. And there were a few things I had, if I may.
Sure, go right ahead.
It said that the notice would be provided herein. written notice was taken out, and I think that's important that it be a written notice with you know, the accusations or however you serve the notice, the right way to do that. And I think in the bottom sentence of the first paragraph A, it says the council shall adopt rules of procedure. I think it should be the council and mayor, and it could even so far as that, unless the mayor is the one being accused.
Could you please repeat that, Lori? I'm sorry, I didn't.
The council and the mayor shall adopt the rules for procedure and conduct of the hearing, instead of just the council shall adopt the rules. I think that needs to be added, unless, of course, it is the mayor that's being charged, which is in some of those things. I also, going on down, I think we need to make sure we're not impinging on, and Mr. Gold, I meant to ask you this question earlier too, impinging on the powers between the executive and legislative branch of our charter.
Well, your current section 2-122 provides, I mean, this is all about the process of the hearing, the notification of the charges to the officer that the charges are levied against, whether it be suspended or not. Doesn't necessarily mean that this doesn't come into play if charges are filed, but there's no grounds maybe to suspend them. It still triggers the hearing process that's in this particular ordinance. The council is to conduct this hearing as it's specified currently, and this didn't change that. And if the charges were made by the mayor, then it would take a majority vote of the council. If charges were made by a council member or the council as a whole, then it would take a 2/3 vote. And one of the other, just for point of clarification, in your current ordinance, there's some language that's not consistent. In other words, in section C, it says if a majority of all the members elected to council find the accused guilty. The next sentence says if a majority of the council members, and there's a difference between those elected, that's your 10 seats, so it would take a majority of 10, versus the members of council, you have 9 sitting members right now, so it would take a majority of 9. So the changes that were made align with a majority of the elected members of council. So you basically had 2 different ways that a vote could happen within the same paragraph of the ordinance, and so that was cleaned up basically by making it consistent that you would need a majority of the elected members of the council, so a majority of 10, or if the charges are made by the council or a council member, then it needs 2/3 of that majority of elected members.
So
it's still the council that makes the vote.
Right. And so it's a majority of, the way it's being worded here is a majority of the
your total seats.
Total seats. That's what I wanted to make sure. Okay, and then bear with me, I'm reading all the notes I had. And thank you for answering my questions ahead of time. That helped a lot on all. I made a lot more notes, so he spared us a little bit of that.
Now, I would say one other thing, Ms. Leach, you had mentioned that you felt that written notice was removed. If you'll go to section A, it says that the council shall cause to be served upon the accused officer a written notice of the exact time and place where such charges will be heard. Is that what you were referring to, that you thought written notice had been taken out?
Correct. I'm not seeing it in the new one. What sentence is that in A?
Are you looking at the 5th line down of A?
Oh, I see it. I apologize. Yes, thank you very much.
So it still provides for the due process that your current ordinance calls for, and that is written notice.
Okay. And then my other question is, the conduct of the hearing, it's just a hearing. But then at that time, is that when we would appoint a third-party investigative team?
It would be a hearing that's held in front of your council with evidence that can be presented. Essentially, the city attorney's job would be to prosecute, not in a criminal matter, but in a civil way, present the evidence to support the charge. And the accused has the right to have counsel present or not, and to defend themselves and to present whatever evidence to the contrary that would suggest they're not guilty.
Perfect, thank you for clarifying that. And I did know that that language was odd there when I had read over that. Okay. Okay, so just trying to get the process straight here. So we'd have 5 days, they'd have 5 days to appoint someone to do a third-party investigation for whomever was being accused of whatever?
Well, not necessarily. It would, the 5 days is that you, from the time that they're served with a copy of the charges, you at least need to give them 5 days before you set the hearing. In other words, you can't levy the charges and the next day hold an abrupt hearing.
Okay, so the investigation would have been done prior to that?
That would be up to the council as to what investigation they would entertain needing to do to support any charges made. Because these charges could be made by the mayor, 1 council member, 5 council members, or all the council.
Okay.
And that wasn't changed. That's in your current ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Cox?
I have a question. So does this ordinance pertain to council members and the mayor? Isn't it just the officers that are appointed to their positions? I'm just.
I believe it pertains to all officers.
Of course, the way it's written in the code, the officers are the department heads. It actually says the judge, city attorney, and staff. It's not pertaining to council members and the mayor.
CBIP's listed in a different spot.
Yes, I know that we did do an amendment to our code to where the officers or the board members of CWEP are considered officers, so they have protection upon, for removal. But the way this is in the code, this is, it's talking about staff.
I think it's, what you have to decide is what an officer is, because it's clearly not enunciated in the current ordinance that you have. If somebody wants to make a motion to define officers based upon the definition that Ms. Deal related to us, that could be a motion to amend.
No, I'm just trying to clarify because, so you're saying if it pertains to council and the mayor, so the mayor can just make charges against any council member and it has to be a hearing and they can be removed? That's...
You're right, it seems that wouldn't be the process.
Well, we can't go against state statutes.
I agree, but I guess I'm open to entertaining any motions that somebody may want to amend to define what officers of the city are for purposes of this. It's not defined in your current section 1-22.
But we can't pass an ordinance that goes against a state statute, correct?
No.
I'm just, like I said, if that's the case, if an officer is a council member or a mayor, state statutes outlines their, removal.
You're correct.
And that's what I also had too, is I wanted, if I may, that we want to make sure that we're following all HR procedures with this also to stay in line with our state regulations. And I'm not sure that it does. So we may need someone expert on the HR legalities of all of this to move forward with this one. I would like to make a motion that we check into that, the legalities with the HR before moving forward with this.
I'll second.
And so you're basically moving to table.
Are you
Table,
making a
correct.
motion
I'm
to
moving to
table?
making a motion to table this so we can do more investigation to make sure we're following all the state codes.
Okay, so in order to table, we need to pick a date to bring it back from the table.
Okay.
So,
So I would say we would consult Mr. Gold and see how long it would take for him, since he's our acting city attorney, to look into that and make suggestions that keep us compliant with state law.
do we want to do the next council meeting? Is that
Maybe you ought to go to the second one.
second one? Okay. So,
September 24th.
making a motion to table until September 24th?
Right. And could I add one thing to that? Could we also add anything that gets changed with the additions and the redactions so that, in the packet, so that all the public can see exactly what's being
Where it
suggested?
started and where it ended?
Yes, please.
All right. So I've got a motion and a second to table until, and this is for Council Bill 2448, table until September 24th, council meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Let's raise our hands. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed?
She's absent. Oh, okay.
Was that unanimous or was there?
It was 7-1.
Oh.
No, 7 yeas and 1 abstaining.
Okay. All right. Motion passes. All right. I guess we will move on to closing comments. And Ms. Lee, anything?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Ms.
Nothing
Hackmaster?
tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Edge?
Nothing further tonight, Your Honor.
Mr. Snow?
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Barlow? Ms. Cossey?
Not tonight.
Ms. Schramm?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Well, actually, Your Honor, doesn't someone need to move that we go into closed
Make
session?
a motion to go into closed session up there.
That would be
That would be you, I would think, yeah.
Well, if somebody would help me get back to the right page.
I can.
Thank you. Yep. According to section 610.021, subsection 3, the agenda includes the possibility of a vote to close part of the meeting to discuss hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees by a public governmental body when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded.
All right, so we've got, did
Do you
we
make
have
a
a second
motion?
for that motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second to go into closed session according to any discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We'll take a 5-10 minute adjournment until we get upstairs. And call the roll.
We can't yet.
Oh, we're missing. See, I thought I was the slowest one. Back, we'll call the meeting into open session. Call the roll, please.
Taylor,
Here.
Peterson,
Present.
Lease, Heckmaster,
Present.
Edge,
Present.
Snow,
Here.
Barlow,
Here.
Cossey,
Here.
Schrader,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?